much. Okay, members, we just have a couple more, and then we'll take a break. So, a few more.
Amy Jo Baker, followed by Jonathan Sines, and then Zachary Copeland.
Hi, Amy Jo.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On September 16th, I came before the board in public commentary and expressed a concern about the word jihad in Arabic, which means struggle. And it was stated in one or more of the textbooks, for many Muslims it can refer to the struggle to be a better person. They went on to say it also could mean a violent struggle. My response to that was that in the Quran, the term jihad, and also in hadith and among Muslim scholars, the military meaning predominates. And if you look at that, the response from the publisher that I've received to date was that this is not a factual error. The term has more than one meaning. It can be interpreted as a struggle to be a better person and as a violent struggle. Ladies and gentlemen, words matter, just as the Constitution, Republic mattered, jihad definition matters. The board and the publishers received information from the experts that we asked to interpret this, and Daniel Akbari, who's an Islamic scholar, said that this lack of credibility, this hadith, there's out of 36 to 40 hadiths that deal with jihad, and one of them says something about this struggle, but the overwhelming majority of the scholars say that this hadith has no basis for the facts among well-known, respected scholars, and he goes on to say that this hadith contradicts all authentic Islamic sources such as the Quran and the Summa, and that it illustrates that jihad means killing non-Muslims in the cause of Allah for the purpose of making Islam the only legitimate and legal religion in the world. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if we look at the Sunni Muslims, who constitute 90% of the Muslim population, they also attribute this to meaning violent warfare.
Okay. Question, Mrs. Miller. Sure. Amy Jo, you've been asked to continue.
Okay, I just had a couple of sentences. Nowhere in the most authoritative traditions of Muhammad is jihad ever used in the context of a peaceful struggle to right social wrongs or to fight against the inner self. And so we need to call a spade a spade. And when we look at the events involving jihad, whether it was 9/11, the tragedy of that day, or whether it was the Benghazi attacks, or even this week the beheading, I can assure you that these acts of jihad was not a struggle for them to be a better person.
Okay. Mr. Allen and Ms. Hardy.
Ms. Baker? Ms. Baker?
Over there.
Is it Ms. Baker?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Baker. I'm probably the only one here. I'm a practicing Muslim, so I've always looked at jihad as being a personal struggle to improve my life. That's what I was taught. But I also would make the comment that most Muslims don't believe you can actually translate the Quran into English, and that certain words are used to describe certain things, but the closest term that could be used in this place in the English translation was the word jihad. And because Muslims believe that jihad can only be called by Allah, then there's no entity or body of individuals that are capable of calling jihad. And what people use in terms of call the word jihad is their personal use in terms of trying to say they're calling a holy war. But a true Muslim does not believe that a man has the authority or the right or the ability to call jihad. Only Allah can do that.
With all due respect, sir, Osama bin Laden called for jihad.
He called for it with his mouth. That's what I'm saying to you. Muslim believes that only Allah can call for jihad. Anybody can use any terminology at any time they get ready. So I'm talking about the faith and the religion of Islam. It's not about Osama bin Laden or ISIS or anybody saying they're calling for jihad. A true Muslim believes that only Allah can call for jihad, and you would hear it in your ear. Now that is Islam. That's Islam.
Okay, did you have a question?
So is it that I was just letting you know that when you see things like that and people begin to take action, they begin to name it a certain way, that's not the religion. And so and I can agree with a whole lot of things today because I can see them the same way others see them. But I want to make sure that if it's going to be what you say a fact, then it needs to be a fact. Not how people interpret it to be, including those who may see themselves as a faith.
Okay.
All I can go by is, for example, the Daniel Akbari, who was a Muslim and speaks the language, helped us with this interpretation as well. So whether it gets lost in the English translation, but I do know that, for example, Adolf Hitler in Mein Kampf translates to my struggle, and he used some of the Arabic information. And if you look at the trilogy that jihad is mentioned in the Sirah, 67%, the Hadith 21%, and the Medinian Quran 24%. So that averages out to 31% of these Islamic writings deal with jihad. So it's important to understand the meaning and how it's been applied in history.
Surely. I agree with that. How people have used the word. Surely.
Okay, Mr. Allen, you good? Okay.
Yes.
Miss Hardy. Mike, there, yes.
I recall having taught this in world history only after they had what they call the Intifada, the uprising, and then this became more of a popular terminology. In other words, it was not, we didn't see it in the newspaper or anything like that. If the word, I want this to be as clear as possible for the students. And by the textbook saying, to some Muslims it would mean a struggle. And obviously we have present someone who is a Muslim and who says that. It's a personal struggle. But unfortunately this has gone on to have a much stronger meaning a struggle against the West or the whatever jihad is, and we equate the word jihad now with terrorism. Would you find any problem with giving it that original start with the meaning jihad, meaning a struggle, but unfortunately it has been taken to another level, and in today's lexicon it would equate to terrorism? I think that sixth graders, which is where this would be the first area that this would be, if it is, I don't know if it is or not. Is it in the sixth grade text?
Yes.
Sixth grade.
Well, as I was trying to share with you, because we don't have time to go through all of this, because in 2 minutes it's very difficult to explain a complex. But this Islamic scholar, Barbari, says that this whole idea of the struggle to be a better person was a very weak hadith, which makes it untrusted, because the people that advocated this were notorious for fabricating hadiths, and many scholars, and I have them listed there, have seriously doubted the authenticity of this hadith. In addition, because of its correct chain of narration. And they're saying that this one minor hadith out of the 39 others contradicts all authentic Islamic sources like the Quran and the Sunnah that have been defined and illustrated as meaning jihad is killing non-Muslims in the cause of Allah for the purpose of making Islam the only legitimate and legal religion in the world. So that's coming from Islamic scholars and experts. that are saying that that is the meaning, and that the struggle to be a better person is a weak, and it's not, the chain of narration is doubtful.
That makes it really hard. Thank you.
Right. Okay, any other questions? Mrs. Knight?
My question follows off of my colleague's first comment. Do you have an issue with a term being explained in its historical context, and then how that historical context has changed over time, and you have a modern context, so that the student sees both points of view?
Well, if you decide that that needs to be in there, then it needs to be said that it's a minor interpretation, but the majority of scholars and interpreters say that the meaning of jihad is the violent warfare. Like I said, it's just a minor interpretation that many scholars discredit. So it seems in the textbook they've given that either equal value or saying that it's just as important as the other term. And what I'm saying to you is words matter.
They do matter, but sometimes they have to be understood in the context in which they are being used also. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, any other questions for Amy Jo? Okay, Mr. Mercer?
Thank you, Ms. Baker, for being here. The same line, first of all, what group do you represent, and how much are you compensated?
First of all, I'm not compensated at all. In fact, it costs me money to come here every time, and gasoline and parking fees, and to reproduce all of these materials for you. No, we're not compensated. And I am representing myself at this point, but I've also worked with the Truth in Texas group in terms of just having discussions with them and editing and reviewing some of the material that they have submitted.
And for benefit of my friends in the media, was Moses a founding father?
Absolutely not.
I'm going to beat that, and I do ask you, find the media, I'm very serious.
But with all due respect to the previous presenters, I think the role of Moses in our government is evident that the Ten Commandments and Moses are in the Supreme Court.
Yes. I've had that tour of the Supreme Court, the walls of Congress. Is very clear to me the impact on our founding fathers.
And I've read extensively the founding fathers and how the Bible and Moses influenced their writings and their interpretation and founding this country.
Is that what brings you here, your love of the country? Is that why you're here today?
Yes, sir. I feel an obligation beyond my 40 years in the classroom to be an advocate for our students so that they have the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Let me ask you this. A few years ago, I remember there was a so-called Christian person who went and assassinated a man in Florida, an abortionist. And immediately the Christian leaders, Catholic, Protestant, came out right away within 24 hours denouncing that, saying that is not Christian. You know, he killed an abortion from an abortion clinic. I'm wondering, is it possible that maybe people are using Christianity to do things that are bad? Is it chances that maybe people like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, bin Laden, are they maybe, someone help me, are they using the religion? Maybe they're not really Muslim because they're using that term jihad for what they want to do, and it's not really a whisper in the ear. Is that?
I was happy to hear that the United Arab Emirates has declared CARE as a radical extremist group that is tied to the Muslim Brotherhood, and which are unindicted co-conspirators. But I do have a problem, and I have a real concern as an American citizen, why there's not more outcry from Muslim countries about the atrocities that are taking place, and I think that they should be speaking up. Where is the leader of Saudi Arabia. Why isn't he on national television asking all of the Arab countries to join together in stopping this ISIS and the slaughter of innocent people, both Muslim, Christian, Jews, all of the other groups that have been persecuted?
Good question. Thank you, Dr. Baker.
Amy Jo, I have a question if nobody else does. Earlier in the afternoon, we talked about how Pearson did change their definition of jihad, and then there was another publisher that I read excerpts from. Were these comments written after you had seen those, or have you had a chance to see them? Or
I haven't seen everything that's come in because some
Right.
of it just came in last night and this morning.
Right.
But I would draw your attention, since you brought that question up, to number 6, dealing with the terrorism response about the 9/11 and the Iraq War, and the concern that they just said terrorists and didn't respond. All we ask is that they add Al-Qaeda, an Islamic terrorist organization, 3 words, and that would be consistent in the language 13 lessons later, because as an educator, reinforcing concept is critical to young learners with consistent language, introducing and reinforcing concepts. And not only, they also didn't say about, the reason for the targeting of those 3 buildings or so on. And they also pointed out that the students will learn this when they take U.S. history. Well, the students will take this 5 years later in the 11th grade and learn about 9/11, but the concept should be introduced in a historically accurate way. And the specific group that attacked the United States on 9/11 was Al-Qaeda. And so I think it should be stated,
Okay.
Al-Qaeda.
I know McGraw-Hill posted their responses yesterday. I know they added the word Islamic, but I can't remember the rest because I was reading so many. But you might want to check that. And I like this because, it feels like we're trying to drink from a fire hose, right? And I like this, though, because this is your top 10 concerns. And will we get one of these for other subjects?
Yes, ma'am.
This is world culture, so grade 6. Are we going to get one for
Yes.
all this?
They were about ready. They were ready. Some of those were ready, but then the responses started coming in, and
True.
so I
Yeah.
felt like it was not fair to send this out to you without the publisher's response,
Okay.
because if they changed it, then that would negate it.
Okay. But you think you might
Yes, ma'am.
get it to us sometime this week and never go to bed and and stay up all night.
Yeah, 24/7.
And make the big bucks, right? Okay. Well, it just helps to narrow it down to 10 tops. So thank you for doing it that way. Okay, any other questions for Amy Jo? Thank you. Oh, I beg your pardon, Mr. Mercer.
One of the last 2, I was looking at Chairman Mao killed 45 million in 4 years. Number 7 on communism.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me a little background on that, please.
Well, this was in the National Geographic, Singjae. They omitted them. They're talking about Mao set in a plan called the Great Leap Forward to make China's economy grow faster. Well, they didn't talk about all the purges that took place in China, which this leap forward killed these millions of people during that time frame. I think most of you can remember some of the different dissidents standing in front of the, standing in front of tanks and people that were intellectuals, people were killed. It was a mass murder. So I think that, to say that he made efforts to make China's economy grow without saying the end, the end does not justify the means, the way he did it in killing all these people. So I think that needs to be included.
Let me ask you one last question, because I've had this discussion before on conference calls, and genocide in particular, will it be China, will it be Khmer Rouge, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, will it be Germany, Stalin, Russia, will it be what I call Che Guevara in Cuba, that those are kind of left out. I mean, is there a reason why when we talk about Marxist, communist, socialist regimes that those are left out?
Well, I think they certainly should be included because it's had a tremendous effect on the history of 20th and 21st century.
Because the concern we had at the college level was genocide was not mentioned anywhere.
Yes,
I'll stop there. It's a different topic, but it relates. Thank you.
Yes, that is a critical concern.
Ms. Harney?
Factual error. The great leap forward was not an economic success either. They killed millions of people, but it didn't succeed either. They continued starvation, et cetera, et cetera.
Could I respond to a question that came up earlier that I don't think an answer about the omission of facts and how that deals with the factual errors or half-truths?
You have a brief, very brief.
Okay.
Because I think my board's
Those
going to want to
half-truths and omission of errors are part of factual errors because, for example, if you have a half-truth, that's not the whole truth. So therefore, the fact is not entirely correct. And the same would be a omission of facts. So I think you need to look at all of those things where there is omission of facts or half-truths or a bias because that can affect whether it is factual.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That was very brief. Okay. Member